in separating the state from the
And
religion.
what's the result? Really, what's the result? Yeah. Is it really something good? You see, what you have to really understand is that, when they talk about the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages, you have to really think about how much propaganda is going on. Okay? In fact, the most chaos that really occurred, the real thing that affected Europe concerning religion was not actually a theocracy. It was actually the rise of Protestantism. It's the battle between Protestants and Catholics that tore Europe apart, that basically made people think that religion and politics should be absolutely separated. Actually, although Jesus says, according to the Gospels, render unto Caesar, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God, and some Christians have claimed that, this is a blueprint for secularism, right? However, historically, it's not been actually understood like that. Okay, it hasn't been understood. Okay, certainly the Catholics and even Protestants, and even you only need to look in America, right? Is they have not been that keen. They have not really made this distinction between religion and politics. They're always trying to bring religion back into politics because, in fact, it's a contradiction in terms. Any belief that you hold and any morals that you hold to, if you hold to them and you believe them truly, you are not only going to implement them in your own personal life, you have to, inevitably, try to implement them in the public life. Because it's just simply not true that human beings are just individuals wandering around. We're not just individuals. We live in families and societies and towns and in cities, right? And what other people do and say and believe affects everyone else. So you see it happening, right? So this moral majority, the religious right, is a huge force in politics in America. Why does America, why America supports Israel? You talk about secularism. Why does America have this unflinching support for Israel? Really? If you look at it, it's to do with theology. It's to do with a particular heretical brand of Christian theology. It's Christian Zionism. In fact, in some instances, it's even more specific. It's the belief that some Christians have that Jesus is going to return when the Jews are back in Israel, then Jesus will return. And these people actually want to bring back, they want Jesus to come, because when Jesus comes back, they believe the rapture is going to happen. He's going to, take all the believers up with him to heaven or whatever. Yeah, okay, so this rapture is going to happen, right? So they actually want to bring it on. They actually, as in the words of George Bush, they want it to happen. They want Armageddon to come, right? So for them, keeping the Jews in Israel is a theological construct that's from their religion, because it doesn't make any sense politically. It doesn't make any sense economically, except that there is a powerful Jewish lobby in America. But they've merged that with their particular brand, okay, of theology. So it just shows that, what is secularism anyway? I mean, Joseph Smith, he might deny that, but that's the reality. So it just shows how much religion does influence politics, even if you claim that it's secular. So I think even secularism probably doesn't really, and maybe cannot really exist, unless you totally marginalize religious people and say that if you have a religious belief, you simply cannot be involved practically in political life, which I suppose is the sort of French political sort of, that's the sort of furthest extreme that you would take it. Yeah, you can have your belief, but literally it has to be personal. And if you're religious and you really believe in your religion, you can't be involved in public life. But then again, how far do you stretch it? You can't be a mayor, you can't be a head teacher, you can't be, you ultimately end up marginalizing religious people. And how do you have a pluralistic society? I mean, the whole thing is a massive contradiction. So I don't think you can really effectively point to a few years of human experimentation where we've had these secular societies, which, the jury is still out as to how successful they've been. I mean, we could argue that secularism is the reason why kids are stabbing each other in the street. Or secularism combined with materialism. Okay? Lack of religious morals, lack of this guidance, society is beginning to crumble. It's beginning to fall apart at the seams. You know, so I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but I'm saying, you know, it's very hard to say one way or another. So how do you therefore advocate, on what basis do you advocate secularism? Unless you say, my book says that, my book says that, but that's, you know, that's your belief and that's my belief, so why should we care? Why should you care? You know?
I guess I was just trying to see how, like, for instance, Great Britain has evolved from that as a nation, because...
But Great Britain, okay, it calls itself a secular society, but then it also has official religion. You know, the head of the state is actually also the head of the church. And that members of the church have specific seats in the House of Lords, so they're intimately involved within government and within society. So it's not really completely secular. And it's one of those things, again, it's a contradiction. Democracy, what is democracy? Depends who's defining it. Give me a definition of democracy. What is freedom? Freedom doesn't really exist. Secularism, similarly, doesn't really exist. And it's one of those things that's an idea that has, you know, unless you sort of take it to the extreme of communism, where you are actually, atheism is the official religion, you know, like in the USSR, you know, atheism was the official religion. You know. That would seem to be, to me, the ultimate, you know, logical conclusion of that idea of secularism, which I'm sure Joseph Smith himself wouldn't believe. It was just another contradiction he has to deal with, amongst the many that he has to deal with. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and Jazakallah khair. We ask Allah subhanahu to guide us all in the right path. The problem is that maybe it would be good if you just give some hints and some talks about the da'wah. Some people, they avoid giving da'wah to non-Muslims because they said, they think I should not give da'wah if I don't have knowledge, or if I don't memorize Quran, or I don't have where I think da'wah can be done by through different means and through so I think
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair, brother. I mean, I do want to emphasize to everyone is that you do not have to be a scholar. You don't have to be a scholar to give da'wah. You should, if you're talking to someone about Islam, you should know what you're talking about. But you don't have to be a scholar. And you shouldn't say things about Islam that are not true. That's also important. But I mean, how much knowledge do you need to be able to explain to people about the oneness of Allah? To explain some details about the Prophet, the life of the Prophet? Even if you can't say, there's so many ways you can give da'wah. By being a good neighbor, by being a good student, you know, by being polite, by having the manners, the adab and the akhlaq of a Muslim. This is da'wah. Subhanallah, we all know that many people became Muslim by observing the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay, through his honesty, his trustworthiness, his good character, his kindness, and so on and so forth. These, for many people, had more impact than any words could have. So it goes back to what I was saying, is that I also think that if you imbibe within yourself Islam as a deen, as a way of living, a way of thinking, a way of being, and you think deeply about your character, about how you interact with people, about these things, then, you know, that will show. That is a way of giving down. So, you know, if you can't talk, you can give a book, you can give a video, you can do so many things. You don't have to, you know, be able to be a scholar to give down. There's so many almost unlimited ways that you could do that. But I think everyone here should look at it as their responsibility to be able to at least explain to whoever they, you know, have connection with, as much about Islam as they can. That is a duty. I don't think that Allah will not ask you. Allah will ask you. And if you can't do that, at the very minimum, to make sure that people leave with a good impression of you as a Muslim. They will be able to